Hello, welcome to part 3 of the making of the 390 facts quizzes. And what I've got on the screen here is just actually a live on the web Khan Academy exercise running off of a server, a private server. I guess this is publicly available. And I'm going to point out that there's still some tweaks need to be done up, but this is not Khan Academy, but it is using an open source framework that's pointed out here, and it's getting people to actually try to go out and look at Khan Academy and participate in the larger effort. You want to make sure you do that. So a little bit of cleanup here, but I want to show, in effect, why you want to reserve that top right side. As this thing gets smaller or bigger, things might, you're going to want to realize that you want to reserve a spot here in the top right for the potential for the answer buttons to come up, and that changes a little bit over time. But what you'll see here is the basic interface, and I've actually opened and exposed some of what's going on in the background. So the way for single answer questions, there's all kinds of ways to do it with checkboxes or radial boxes, but learning how to use this magic dot is probably a more useful thing because it will tie you into the ability to write quizzes on a lot of other things as well. The concept here is a picture's worth 1,000 words. So in this case, you can kind of get the idea as we go through this one. Python is you have this PNG file dropped in here, and then you have obviously some answers in some correct areas. So what you end up doing is going through, I'd like a hint.
4 points on a circle. How hard can that be?
And you notice there, this is just some old sound coming up. You have the ability of kind of not just like giving hints by writing things out on the side, but also by crossing things out. And then I'd like another hint. And what this thing is doing is it's crossing out more and more answers, and it's recording this. So at this point, the student will have, got it down to 2 answers. Another one here, third. And then a fourth, tells them where to bring the dot, and it'll even actually bring the dot for them, and then hit the check answer, and you're good to go. Correct next answer. Now that's stored. That timing and everything is somewhat stored, or at least partly stored, depending on how much you want to set up your back end for how much time it took in between, what answer was selected, etc. So I'm going to go back and now show you some of the other things, the reason why you're learning to use this spatial location of answers as opposed to just anything else. I'll click on this one here, and here's one example here. Drag the magic dot to the key indicating entering a value, and I've actually highlighted it there, so that's not so good. Let's see, I'd like a hint. Here
if we demand 390 math facts by 4th grade, then why not 390 more by 5th grade?
So again, my sound files aren't there, but I can drag this someplace there, check the answer, and it gives me try again. I can go through, show steps, and I don't even know what it's showing. Down below, you've got some answers perhaps coming through. Show step, and then it brings the button to there, and it tries again. So the reason why you're learning, going through this extra work, extra long hassle stuff of laying things into a coordinate plan is it gives you a lot more ability to do cool, fun, creative stuff, and more importantly, to get others to do the same by just getting things laid out in a spatial framework. I'll go back and do one more, and then we'll start looking at how the file systems work. So let's see that one there. Here's another one laid out. So drag the magic orange dot to the circle, indicating the midpoint of a line segment with a length of square root 2. Now, it tells you some information here. This is a screen capture, and then once again, you notice this box, how it's impinging a little bit on the top right. I am keeping and recommending you keep the screen captures to 640 by 480. And in this case, I'd like a hint. You probably get the same
we demand 390 math facts by
you could fill this
grade,
in with different sound files.
390 more by 5th grade.
So now let's think about this is, let's see, that's not it. That's the tangent of 45 is 1, so that length is 1. The verse sign, all this, this one is. So if you bring it here and bring it inside, Check answer. It's actually correct. We'll bring another one. This is probably giving me the same. Now I'd like a hint. I'll just do another hint.
We demand 390 math facts by
you notice,
4th grade, then why not 390 more by 5th grade?
This actually is using the same picture for a different question and brings the answer correctly to there. So that's the point of laying things out in this framework. Alright, so what does the file structure look like? So when we go in now, I'm going to go into someplace into my working directory and go into just an example one here. The file structure in N looks like this. You have an overall subfile that's one per question per se. You have the questions. I'm going to click on that. It's giving you basically those exported files, exported layers if you would. You've got hints in this case, right? And you have in the end some sound file there. There's a sound file, shouldn't have hit that. Right, so you've got all these things laid out. You've got an overall document maybe that you saved. And in the end you then have an HTML file that has some data edited in it. So I'm going to try to bring that up. I'm in MJP 014. So I'm going to go now to Notepad. You should be using Notepad++. I'll explain why perhaps later. Notepad 014. File. Open. Go down through it. And looking in the HTML file here. If this is the one. And to show you, essentially there's a lot of functions in there, which can be actually exported and put out, but in the end there is one spot, one or two lines right here, this data right here, where in effect you are putting the locations of some answers in. So that, if you go back to the video prior to this, these are the left-hand coordinate system, top left, basically. These are the coordinates you're going to want to put in that are the locations of the answers that we see. And you're going to do those probably by hand, but eventually those can be, a processing program can be written to pull out the coordinates of these kind of single pixels that are a certain color, and we can look at how that could occur. You don't necessarily need to do that, but again, the medium is the message. So learning and playing around with this and understanding how data works in terms of a picture field is a good thing as we are really becoming more picture-driven, recognition of pictures and the like, and pixelization and digitization of the world is occurring. So in effect, the one line that changes in a lot of this is just right here, and that's the data, which is kind of selecting answers and locations. So that's we'll go through that when we get going here, but we're going to basically start with going to our overall document, writing out a bunch of PNG files, and then pulling a bunch of coordinates off, and then building from there. So let's see how we do that. Well, what I'm going to do right away is I'm going to go ahead. Very typically, I'm going to go down here. I'm sorry if you're only seeing pieces of this. I'm going to go back up to here, and I'm going to take, maybe I'll take this one, right click. I'm going to copy, and then right click, paste. And what I should get then, I think, is a copy of, see if it does it for me. Losing it along the bottom here. So I don't know where that went. So there it is. I'll try it again. Right click, copy. Copying the whole thing. Right click, paste. And there it is. And right away I'm going to rename. And in this case, I'm going to go back and rename that something new, and I'm going to do 390 facts example. 390 facts. I'll do it this way. MJP 390, because I want to keep track of these a little bit differently. Now in there's different ways you can go about doing it, but this is a good template file, this is, and later on you can see, well, in reality we might want to get rid of that. We're going to probably want to get rid of questions. Let's see what that was the calculator one. So you're just going to write up on top of this, but we're going to stick them down into here, and we're going to push out question, and then hint 1, hint 2, hint 3, and the like. We really don't want that. What that is a sound file. We'll delete that. But we've kept all these things in the kind of the formation in your working file. So in the end, what's presented and pushed out in Khan Academy is then a HTML file, and then all these kind of files laid out in a certain particular way, so that you don't have to rewrite the scripts for each question. So I'm sorry if you couldn't see that whole bit. So we'll go through that right now. Again, we're going to go to the MJP 390 for now, and I'm going to go through and back now, close that up, and now go back into Smooth Draw. And I'm going to file open my last one, which was making of, and right away I'm going to kind of bring this up so you can still see it. Remember, that's what it was. And I'll immediately file save as in the right spot, Mark J. Patak, and this is in documents. Working, I think, is what I've been calling it. Oops. In working in MJP, and I'm going to call this I'll just do it here. This is not a file that's going to go actually into the quiz, but it is your overall document, and you wouldn't necessarily need to be doing it in the Smooth Draw document type. You might very well just be working in a layered GIMP file or a Photoshop file or whatever you want to do. Google Docs works. So I'm going to hit save here. That's now where I'm here. Now what we'll go through is we're going to go through and export each of these. So what we're going to do is we're going to export layer image. We're going to call this right on top of question 01. There it is. Save. You're going to replace it. Yes, you're good to go. Now, answer form, right? We might want to go here. And later on, in the end, we might want to go put that on the same layer. We can talk about doing that, but I can now take this and export layer image, and I'm going to go this question. I'm going to just make this question 02. So you're just exporting each of the individual layers. Later on, hint 02, if you remember, was hint 01, so I'm going to export layer image, and this becomes hint 01. And hint 01 becomes hint 02, export layer image. And what you're doing is you're kind of remembering the format so the script knows what to find. And we're going to save. And as you go through here now, that's really all that we wanted to stick out, hint 01. So we have all the exports. What the other thing we're interested in, however, later on might be that question 2. Right, because we might only need to be able to take this whole directory, and the only thing we really need to change are the questions and the hints. So you're going to see there's some complexity in layering here. We will go through a couple of these quickly once I get them going, so you can see the value in maybe doing each one individually or the value in doing them as a group. So that said, answer form, and what I want to at least show you now is we're going to go ahead and isolate everything but the target points. Now it's really tough to see, but this does have an ability to view maybe it doesn't. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the background, right? And you can kind of just barely see where each of those dots are. And so what you would be doing, I'm going to move this up again. If you remember the coordinates E, there's my 0. E would have coordinates like right around there, which would be 173.13. And I would be 184.258. I'm looking down here on the bottom left. Later on, we'll play with how to get those coordinates out. So you will get the coordinates of each of your answers. But in this case, the only one you really need to know is that this one right here is actually 173 and 312. So you don't really need to know necessarily, for the most simple version of this, anything but the location of the correct answer. So I'm going to see one more time. I can zoom here. That's what I'm going to do. Zoom to 400%. And so you can start to see that actually there's a number of pixels there. Again, zoom in. So if you notice there, you're really just trying to grab the middle of the pixelization. So let's go back over here again. And that first one was not the best because you remember I didn't draw this all perfectly, but that first one is in the order of 172 and 315. I'm going to zoom in now even farther. That's about as far as it'll go. So that idea of grabbing the yellow, there's a set of pixels here that it's grabbing, but you're really just trying to get the locations in the X and Y left-hand coordinate, top left, datumed, and the program will do the rest for you by a simple transformation. So you don't necessarily have to deal with the math that you're used to, which is right-hand coordinate system, bottom left, origin. So that's the data that then goes in. We'll end up with here at 1613. So I'm going to go ahead and realistically file exit because I haven't necessarily done anything. I didn't erase anything when I went through there. And I'm going to then show you once again the fact that you're going to use the answer to the question is E, but it's at a particular spot, and we'll go in the next video and actually build the rest of this out. We then will show how to make the rest of the 13 based on the same template, not necessarily with hints. But what we'll do prior to that is go ahead and make a couple sound clues so we've got this all kind of succinctly done. There's a lot here. This needs to be probably redone and recut, but this will get you the ability to kind of get going. More importantly, get some extra help, perhaps, by having your students build some of these things, or the rest of your family.